Hey everyone, Lewis aka Spider-Man 991 with my weekly comic book review. I'll be talking about the comic books I read that were released on June 27th, 2018. As usual, I will be talking about these books from worst to best. Let's get started. Moon Knight, number 196. Picking up from the last issue, Moon Knight enters the collective's mind. While Mark Spector and his personalities try to maintain order within the collective's mind, its physical form is still rampaging and causing lots of chaos in the real world. Ultimately, Moon Knight ends up separating all the people absorbed by the collective. In the last issue, there was a comment Mark made to his other personalities where he said he wanted to avoid weird stuff for a while, and that pretty much sums up how I felt about this arc. Moon Knight is a book where weird stuff can happen, but I feel like lately that's becoming the regular, that we keep going on these weird psychedelic adventures, and it's just, I don't know, I kind of like Moon Knight. I do like Moon Knight, but I kind of like him more when the stories are a bit more grounded and action-packed and like dealing with street-level stuff. But whenever I understand that Mark Spector's insanity is like a huge part of the character's identity, but lately that's been all anyone's been focusing on rather than just telling a good story. And lately I just feel like Moon Knight's not going to get any better and I might end up dropping it soon. Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, number 49. Arkilo knocks some sense into Guy Gardner, Orion frees Kyle Rayner and Space Cabbie from New Genesis, and Hal Jordan overcomes Hector Hammond's control just as the Dark Stars send their army to surround Mogo. My favorite parts of this issue were the Hal and Hammond scenes because they dealt with Hal's uncertainty about whether the Dark Stars and their use of lethal force was the proper method for dealing things. And it kind of gives the reader some sympathy for Hector Hammond because from Hammond's dialogue you find out that he really does look up to Hal as a hero. Also, the Guy Gardner arc with him using the Darkstar armor to try to kill his father was definitely very entertaining. It definitely added a bit more of character depth to Guy, especially when he finally overrides the armor and you find out that the reason Guy did all of this was so that he could understand how it's been taking over people. I feel like what went on in this issue and the last one where we saw each of the 4 Earth Lanterns dealing with their own thing, it really could have done a better job if they just like combined it, told one of either Hal or Guy's story in one issue along with either Kyle or John and the other 2 in the next issue, because I feel like you could have easily told both Hal and Guy's stories in one issue, and John and Kyle, they went through their little adventures just very fast. I don't know, but so far it looks very interesting with the ending with Dark Stars on Mogo, and there's only going to be only about 3 issues left until this title ends. But overall, Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps, it's a barely average read. Man of Steel, number 5. Superman takes Rogol Zar to the moon, but Zar gets the upper hand and knocks him out. Supergirl and the Justice League then take Superman to the Hall of Justice to recover. Then Superman figures out where Rogol went and finds him in the center of the Earth, getting ready to destroy the planet because Rogol wants to just annihilate any traces of Kryptonians from the universe, including planets that they've been on, which for the past 20 years includes Earth. Also, we get more added to the flashback of what happened to John and Lois. We find out Jor-El shows up and says that he wants to take John on a tour of the galaxy because he feels that Earth is not the proper environment for John to fully develop his gifts and wants to provide a different outlook for him. And even though John's like really enthusiastic about traveling space with his grandpa, Clark and Lois refuse to let him go. Although John doesn't want to go permanent, he does ask Jor-El if he can get him back in time for when school starts. What this tells me, what the biggest disappointment I think is Rogol Zar had nothing to do with Jor-El's return. It's also adding more to why Lois and Clark aren't around in the present. It could be that in order for John to go on this adventure with Jor-El, Lois probably agreed to go with them because Clark, even though Clark probably was the one who said, I'm going to come with you because I don't want you to mess up my son, Lois will be like, no, Planet Earth needs you, the Justice League needs you, you need to stay here, I'll go with John and your dad. And another disappointment is that I really thought that if Jor-El was going to take Lois and John because of Rogol Zar, then that maybe given us some backstory as to why Rogol Zar does the things that he does, why he hates Kryptonians, because 5 issues in and we have not gotten that answer. And again, unfortunately, there's no real connection between Jor-El's flashback, the flashback with Jor-El, and what's going on in the present. So I gotta wonder, like, what the heck is going on? So I'm really confused. I mean, I get it, this is just Bendis's first Superman story. He doesn't want to reveal a lot going forward, but I feel like we deserve some explanation just so that the readers can see where the story is going. We've only got one issue left though, but so far Man of Steel has just pretty much been okay. The Terrifics, number 5. The Terrifics investigate Belmont, Michigan, when its citizens suddenly start to become infected with powers similar to Metamorpho. The team finds out the person causing this is Algon, the ancient element man. Algon uses Metamorpho to open a portal to the Kingdom of Elements in order to steal the Orb of Ra, which originally turned Rex Mason into Metamorpho. The Terrifics, it's not really the most world-changing story, but it's still pretty fun to read. It's a fun little adventure title with some lesser-known characters from the DC Universe, which is great. And also the villain choice, I actually had, when I saw Algon the Element Man, I had to look up Metamorpho on Wikipedia, and it turns out he's a really old Metamorpho villain. So I like how the writer Jeff Lemire is able to use references from Mr. Terrific, Plastic Man, and Metamorpho's career. Also, there is a scene where Plastic Man tries to get into contact with his son. That's a nice little callback, and there is sort of a reference to Mr. Terrific's wife and child. So I think the series is definitely going to play a lot of the history of these lesser-known characters. Also, my favorite part about this issue itself was the panel layouts, because it's a nice way that they keep all of the 4 main characters on the page, and the way they do it is that whenever each character is off on a different part of their base, the page is just 4 panels. But then when 2 characters are in the same setting, then it becomes 1 panel and 2 single panels. And basically it just pretty much like lowers it all down until, like, if all 4 of them are together, then it's just a huge splash page. So that's that's a really fun way that the art team is able to play with this issue. But yeah, Terrifics, it's not the best thing I've ever read, but it's still pretty fun and interesting to read. The Sentry, number 1. Okay, so lately the Sentry, in order to keep the Void in check and to not use his powers, Bob Reynolds has been using a device called the Confluctor to operate in a virtual reality so that he can still be the Sentry and not have to worry about the Void returning. During his day life, he works as a diner cook with his former sidekick Billy. Unfortunately, one day when he comes home, Bob discovers his device is stolen. And then we cut to the VR world and we see the thief entering and murdering the VR versions of Sentry's sidekick Scout and Watchdog. Okay, so I'm going to be honest, the only stories that I've read with the Sentry were from Brian Michael Bendis' Avengers run. And while I read those Avengers, and his appearances from the Avengers, the character did intrigue me for a bit, but there was nothing really to go on because it was the Avengers, there was other stuff to do. But I never really read any of the Sentry solo stories, and I honestly might after checking this out. But anyways, back to the issue itself. I think Jeff Lemire, the writer, does a good job showing us the internal conflict with Bob Reynolds. And, you know, when he talks to Billy about using his powers in the real world, Bob is against it because he feels like he's not needed. There's a lot of other Marvel heroes, but there's still kind of a part of him that still wants to be a hero, but he knows he can't, because if he acts like a hero, then he's just going to bring back the Void, who's one of the worst villains ever. You do get an intriguing mystery about who stole the device and who's using it now. The most obvious suspect would be the Void, but the thing is, it's obvious, but it's might be difficult to explain how the Void is able to act on his own without Reynolds being aware of it, because the Void is another aspect of the Sentry's personality. And to be honest, the way that Jeff Lemire wrote this, it kind of felt the same way when I read the first volume of his Black Hammer series. So I think if you're a fan of Jeff Lemire's Black Hammer, which is published by Dark Horse, you should definitely give the Sentry a try. Detective Comics number 983. A killer is attacking Batman's allies and citizens who promote Batman's symbol. This killer believes that Batman's allies have made him weak and also knows Bruce Wayne's secret identity. Meanwhile, Batman recruits Black Lightning to join him in Gotham for a new team he's trying to build. While someone trying to get to attacking Batman through his allies isn't anything new, I think that there's a new intriguing angle with this particular killer, because he doesn't just attack Batman's sidekicks, he also goes after anyone that promotes Batman, because in the opening issue, because the killer's first victim is a young Gotham citizen who has a YouTube channel where he talks about how much he loves Batman and how Batman's a good thing for Gotham, and he's the killer's first victim. So then it becomes this idea that anyone that wears the bat symbol is basically a target for this killer. Also, what really got me on board with the story was the inclusion of Black Lightning. I'm really happy that Black Lightning's involved, and I knew that at some point we might see Batman maybe kickstarting a new version of the Outsiders, because we briefly saw them return in Dark Knight's Metal. Also, Black Lightning's CW show was really successful, and I hope this means that we'll see more of Jefferson Pierce in the regular DC comics. Yeah, I think this is a very interesting Batman arc, and if you like Black Lightning, that's another reason to pick this book up. Marvel 2-in-1, number 7. The team arrives in a post-apocalyptic world where Spider-Man is an overlord and runs the Gladiator Coliseum. Ben, Johnny, and Doom fight 3 giant beings known as the Terrific Three. However, when Doom fatally injures one of the giants, it turns out to be this world's version of Ratchet's sister, Disha. Now, Johnny and Ben are wondering, like, wait, what are you talking about? And Doom reveals that Ratchet's hidden motive wasn't to help them find Sue and Reed. It was to find another version of her sister. And after they escape the Coliseum, Ratchet reveals that she's trying to find a version of her sister that isn't brain dead, because in the regular universe, her sister is brain dead, and she wants to put her sister's mind in her counterpart's body. Now, at that point, Ratchet then tries to take off on her own with the multi-sect, and Doom thankfully is able to catch up and follow her through the portal. However, this leaves Ben and Johnny stranded. So now this arc is okay, so I think with this issue we're really starting to head to the conclusion of the whole multi-sect arc for this book, and it makes sense because we are about a month away from the return of the Fantastic Four to comics. Also, we do get a scene that kind of sets up the Mad Thinkers version of Fantastic Four. I don't remember when, but I do remember in this title that at one point the Mad Thinker thought about forming a new Fantastic Four with him, believing that he could be the next Reed Richards. Plus, there's a really great scene when they're entering the Coliseum where Doom tells Ben that Ben will be the one that'll get Johnny killed. So Doom pretty much has to protect the two of them because of him trying to turn over a new leaf. Also, there's a great line where Ben pretty much says to Doom that, you can't, where Doom expresses the idea that, Sue and Reed are obviously dead, but Ben says, you can't kill the Fantastic Four, and Doom says, believe me, I've tried, but someone beat me to it. I mean, the dialogue in that scene is just, it's so much Victor Von, like, that is just classic Victor Von Doom right there. It's got arrogance, all that arrogance, that tone. It's just, I think that's like the best even when he's trying to be good, Victor is still kind of a dick. Marvel 2-in-1 has been great, building up the return of the Fantastic Four. I can't wait to see how they finish this series up, although I kind of wish that they would have delayed the Fantastic Four's actual return until the stuff in this book was finished. The last book, my pick of the week, Flash, number 49. Barry and Wally continue their race across the entire planet. When the Flashes reach their destination, they end up breaking what is known as the Force Barrier. Now, Hunter Zolomon then appears and kills the Justice League, and turns out Zolomon needed Barry and Wally to break the barrier in order to harness the other forces of the multiverse. There's the Speed Force, which you already know, but apparently there's others, two of which Zolomon reveals as the Sage Force and the Strength Force. And prior to the big revelation at the end of the story, as Barry and Wally are running, we see throughout the Earth various heroes of the DC Universe kind of like reacting to how Barry and Wally's race is affecting everything around them. Zatanna and Swamp Thing are saying that something's wrong with magic. The Atom is saying the microverse is piss, and even on New Genesis, Highfather notices there's a strange fluctuation in energy. The introduction of the Force Barrier, I think, is a really big development for how everything's changed in the DC Universe since the Force Wall broke. Also, I think it's a great way to add more lore to the Speed Force aspect, which has been a recurring theme of Joshua Williamson's run since he took over the title at the beginning of Rebirth. And I think this is probably the thing that his Flash run is going to be known as, the run where we got more info about the Speed Force. Also, the best part was I thought one of my favorite parts during the race was when Superman tries to run after Barry and Wally in order to try to get them to calm down and stop but he barely catches up to them and barely gets a word in. Also, the fanboy in me really enjoyed the final scene where when Actor Zalman appears, he opens up Barry's original costume ring and wears Barry's pre-crisis costume. I thought that was a really fun throwback, and I really liked seeing that suit again. Overall, Flash War, I'm still enjoying the story arc. We're learning a bunch of new things. I am curious though whether or not Wally will actually get his kids back at the end of this arc. I hope he does, or maybe if he doesn't, this will lead to Wally getting his own series where he'll go in search of his kids. But yeah, that's basically why why Flash 49 is my pick of the week. Okay, thank you again for watching. Remember to stay subscribed and notified for whenever I post a new video, or you can just follow me on my Twitter feed, which link is in the description below. Whenever I post a new video, link goes right to my Twitter. Thank you again for watching. Thank you for your support. Later days.